since we're talking about the media and so forth, let's talk about Richard Sherman and everything that led up to this game on Sunday, you know, with the championship a few weeks ago, and then his sort of turnaround where this week at Media Day he was very complimentary of his teammates. He sort of kept the focus there and not on himself. We know that he took a lot of flack following that game where he said that Michael Crabtree of the 49ers was mediocre.
Mediocre. I feel like we're playing big game Yahtzee. There are all these buzzwords, and one of them is mediocre. Yes. There's beast mode, power pellets. Mediocre is going to be one that I think people will throw around a lot during this podcast.
So how do you feel about Richard Sherman and his very verbose and outspoken attitude on the field, whereas really when it's not in the height of the game, so to speak, he's much more mild-mannered? He is from Compton, went to Stanford, so very diverse sort of viewpoints coming together.
I love it. And I mean, I think that people try to make it a bigger issue, but I think it's much more so the type of athlete that you like watching. I personally like people that talk a lot of stuff. I like people that are passionate and kind of come out, and I don't think he does it the wrong way. And, you know, I know that's coded language, the wrong way, but he doesn't come out and not back it up. Or he doesn't come out, you know, it's sort of like smack talking for the sake of smack talking, and that's his reputation. He's not Ray Lewis, you know, he's not Charles Barkley. That's not specifically what he's known for, but you know that in the course of the game, he takes it there. He has to ramp himself up, and I think it's opened up this conversation, which, you know, to me is something that we should always be talking about, is where does your mind have to go to be able to play this game at that level? You know, he's matched up against the best player on the field, the best wide receiver every play. You have to stop him every play. Obviously, he has to get kind of excited, don't you think?
I mean, I agree. I like trash talk, much like you. I think that that's part of the competitive edge. I mean, if you're hurling bodies at each other, these are very large men running at very fast speeds. It takes a certain mental edge to get up for that. And so, you know, it's a bit of a dichotomy, but I think that the energy he brings, and like we said, he keeps it consistent on the field. It's not something that he takes off the field. He talks about the on-field play.
Yeah, and I think from the media week you were saying, you know, it's been sort of toned down, but I think he is somebody that's very well in line with his teammates. Like, they seem sort of the same mind, and like they've talked about this. I don't think they took offense to the fact that, you know, he got kind of geeked up during that post game, but in the columns and things that he's written, he wrote a really good column for Sports Illustrated's Monday Morning Quarterback.com on their site, and he's been writing throughout the season. Again, everybody's going to say he's a Stanford grad, he's a smart guy, but he's somebody that's been able to sort of, in a really valid way, put together his thoughts on why he did that and what it's like to be an NFL player. And so I hope that, you know, people don't see that one incident and then decide, oh, he's not somebody that's worth listening to or, you know, taking his opinion and being valid, because he's been somebody that off the field has been outspoken about player culture and what it's like to be an NFL player and to have, you know, a high IQ and to want to talk about a lot of different issues. So I hope that that doesn't mean that people sort of reject him having any off-the-field conversation ever because one time he screamed on TV. Seems silly.
Since you brought up player culture, actually just today there were some text messages released from Jonathan Martin to Richie Incognito that were sort of questionable. I know that you have discussed on the live channel before the whole incident with the Miami Dolphins locker room and bullying and hazing. So do you think that to a certain extent, because of the mental area that you have to go to play professional football, that there is a culture that might seem a bit rough to the average person or more aggressive? And is that okay? Is it okay under these circumstances?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because, like I said, with Sherman talking about it, it's certainly one of those things that people are starting to see. People want to know about locker room culture. And given what Jonathan Martin has said, he did that Today Show interview, he came out and said, you know, I know what locker room culture is, and it can be very coarse and very crass and really aggressive. But also, I think part of the reason why people love football so much, and when players talk about this, there's a bond or a brotherhood, even in this hyper-masculinity. And so within the locker room culture, yeah, people joke with each other, and, you know, there's hazing and there's, you know, pranks that people pull on each other, but I think everybody knows when a line is crossed. In the Today Show interview he did, he was saying, no, I asked people on other teams, is this normal? Is this what goes on? And they said, no, it was excessive. So it's hard to sort of differentiate if this was an NFL cultural thing, which some people would have you believe, or if this was a Miami Dolphins locker room thing. And it's like, if that's the case, then, you know, they're going to have some real problems in court. What do you think? When you talk to guys, do you think, you know, they're just meatheads and they just said the wrong things? Is he too sensitive?
I don't think that they're just meatheads, but I do think that there is a certain brotherhood and bond that develops within the locker room where there are some things that they may joke about that might be something they go through the course of, you know, going through practice. They spend a lot of time together. We know offense and defensive teams are separate. They have different goals, different, you know, plays that they're looking at and monitoring. So a friendship develops. And I think that sometimes friends, in order to forge that foundation, may, you know, throw things at each other. It obviously sounds like it got out of hand in Miami. I don't know at what point Jonathan... Sometimes I wonder if maybe Jonathan Martin shouldn't have stood up for himself publicly, but I wasn't there, so I really can't say how intimidated he felt. It just sometimes makes me question why he just sort of kept going along with it in the text messages. I mean, it's a really complicated situation, and it's a sad thing that it went on for so long.
Yeah, it went on for a long time, and we had spoken about it before on the instant reaction team when Richie Incognito, you know, first got suspended, but now he's come out and he's got a PR person to sort of defend him and saying that he's not this bully. But it's interesting because, like I said, it's going to be a question of whether the NFL has this culture of, you know, bullying and not caring about people's mental health and physical health when we talk about the concussions issue, or if this was a Miami Dolphins thing.